The Mandalorian actor and stand-up comedian Bill Burr recently mocked white conservatives for criticizing Snow White, calling them the biggest effing babies. Roll this up over at phantompulse.com. You can find the link in the description below. And Burr made his comments during his March 27th podcast, which he posts over on his personal YouTube channel. And he brought up the subject saying, "One of my favorite things is how each side thinks the other side is dumb, and then each side thinks the other side's a bunch of babies. Specifically, the right thinks that liberals are a bunch of effing snowflakes, whiny, entitled assholes," which, I mean, come on, that's pretty effing true, right? But for conservative people to act like they're not the biggest effing babies also is effing hilarious. From there, Burr railed on white conservatives who have criticized Disney's live-action Snow White film, albeit he calls it Cinderella. He says, "My people, whitey, we're all effing upset. There's enough of us to get it going, trending anyway. We're upset about the new Cinderella movie. The actress playing Cinderella isn't white. There's no prince. They changed the story. What am I going to tell my kids?" So he's obviously puts on like a mocking voice when he delivers that. "The crap that my people get upset about. What am I going to tell my kids? Well, effing talk around it the way we talk around the real history of this country. I think you could that. For you to talk around effing genocide and slavery, you could talk around a stupid effing movie about some broad who didn't exist. You can't do that. Go take them to see effing Pinocchio." I think it goes on this like random Pinocchio rant where he starts talking about gender ideology and immigration. Like, you can't even make this stuff up, right? He says, "I don't like Pinocchio because that effing wooden puppet transitions into a real boy. First of all, I don't like trans people, and God only makes real boys." He delivered this in like a Southern accent, like a Southern grandpa accent, right? Like Appalachia, maybe. "First of all, I don't like trans people, and God only makes real boys. Not some immigrant named Geppetto. What am I supposed to tell my kids?" He then contrasted this to liberals saying, "You got on the other side, the effing liberals, hey, how you doing, sweetheart? Call me sir. Doing all of that crap and having a effing, absolute effing meltdown. That's basically what it is. It's my people having meltdowns while ignoring truly oppressed people in this country." So Bill Burr is completely off his rocker. He's not funny at all. And he might think that he's pointing out some kind of hypocrisy or contradiction. He's not. The things he's mocking white conservatives for is them noticing that there is a clear agenda that is being waged against them by the likes of the Walt Disney Company, which Bill Burr works for with The Mandalorian. As Jack Posobiec noted back in November 2023, they hate whites, they hate Christians, they hate the successful, they hate families. There's a reason they are like this. In fact, Burr's mocking of white conservatives proves the point. He mocks them for noticing the character's race has been purposely changed, for axing the prince, which leads young girls away from desiring families. And they changed the story to completely remove not only the moral lessons about envy and jealousy and vanity, but to remove the Christian allegory. And that Christian allegory is explained by this priest here. I'm not sure what his name is, but he was highlighted by Father Leo, who runs Plating Grace, and he does a really good job of talking about how the story of Snow White has a ton of Christian symbolism in it. He notes that Snow White represents humanity, the prince is Christ, the seven dwarves are the sacraments, while the evil queen represents envy and the devil. I highly recommend you take a look at that. Not going to show it, but if you want to, click through and you can listen to it. It is really, really good stuff there. So, but it proves the point, right? It proves the point. And conservatives should be upset that the truth is being obfuscated and rewritten. And it is quite likely that we're not upset enough, that white conservatives, we are not upset enough. We're not upset enough about it because stories matter. Stories matter. The Mandalorian creator Jon Favreau even noted that film and TV shows are a way to pass down values to the next generation. Things like Snow White, even his own Mandalorian show. He says that there are life lessons that are in these stories that carry on the tradition. And speaking to George Lucas, he felt that the Western was the genre that helped teach a generation of people coming of age about the value systems that are espoused by that genre. And that Star Wars, part of that responsibility is remembering that part of your audience is a whole generation that's coming of age, and through stories, we express our values to the next generation. And so one of the things he said was not to lose sight that this is the main audience for stories. So this is also part of Christian teaching, right? I've cited this document a number of times, didn't cite it in this article, but Pope Paul VI says in Inter Mirifica that these, what does he describe them as? He calls them as like social media. And it's not like what we think of social media, because he was writing this back in like the 60s. But he's talking about movies. He's talking about television. He's talking about all kinds of entertainment that can convey stories, right? And even he talks about how news people who are promoting the stories, critiquing the stories, etc., distributing the stories are part of how important this stuff is, because these things can sway people's minds for good or for evil. And he talks about how that is extraordinarily important. And this is something that I like to talk about as well. And that's why Bill Burr's mocking of white conservatives being upset about the Snow White story is ridiculous, because we should be upset about it. And we should probably be even more upset about it than what it is, because it is trying to destroy our society. It is trying to rewrite the morals. It's trying to imprint immorality on to a new generation of people watching Snow White. It is trying to undermine this Christian story of Snow White and what it tells. So we should be upset about that. And then even when films like Snow White are obviously trying to impose bad values onto viewers, righteous anger is justified, and it should not be mocked or derided in an attempt to cow people from defending the truth. And that's exactly what Bill Burr is trying to do here. He's trying to shame people for being legitimately upset about what the Walt Disney Company is doing, and we should reject him. We should reject him. We should not let him shame us. We should not let him cow us from defending the truth. And that is exactly what he is trying to do here in this video. In contrast, the mocking of gender ideology, which he rightfully does mock due to its denial of the truth, is just. We should be mocking things that are evil. Father Hugh Barber explains in the classic literature of the ancient church, and indeed of the ancient world, that St. Thomas Aquinas was following, the form of insulting was only the opposite of the form of rejoicing or celebrating. This means that because we possess some great good in which we take joy and delight and express it, so too we mock the evil things that try to prevent us from having it. If there were no joy much stronger and more real than the evil we avoided, then it would be very dangerous to insult our enemy. We would just be dwelling on the fact of evil and not the power and beauty and pleasure of the good. So we should be mocking things that are evil, especially when they are unable to try to destroy us, or when we get a victory over them. So that is something that we should be doing. And there is a clear distinction between mocking gender ideology and mocking people who are legitimately upset about the Snow White and Disney's Snow White specifically, for how subversive it is and what it is trying to do and how it is promoting evil. We should be upset about that because of what it is doing. So Bill Burr is totally off his rocker. He's clearly has, I think, some ulterior motive, whether he knows what he's doing consciously or whether he is doing it subconsciously. He's clearly trying to mock these white conservatives, and I think obviously the purpose is to try to shame them for being upset about the film. I think that is pretty clear there, and he's in the wrong. He's absolutely in the wrong for that. But let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, and to always, always speak the truth.